Bible, in the book of Revelations, there were 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. They were conquest, meaning our battle with inner demons, war, famine, and then the 4th and final horseman was death, meaning a global pandemic or a plague. So could the Bible have been right? Well, it seems to me that we are on the brink of a catastrophe. We've reached the tipping point with climate change. We're running out of oil rather fast. Half of the world are suffering from obesity, whilst the other half are starving. And we've developed all sorts of ways to annihilate ourselves with very sophisticated weaponry. So there are a number of ways that we could wipe ourselves out as a species. That is, if we don't succumb to a raging pandemic first.
Summer spent in the high grass are just fragments, ransacked memories, dark rivers.
We're a clever and inventive species, so actually I'm pretty optimistic because we have always managed to dodge the bullet so far. And I think that science could save us. It's basically up to us. We can choose how we want to fix the world.
Where then will I call my home?
Well, our population has increased massively. It's hit 7 billion, and it's predicted that by the time we get to 2050, it'll be 9.3 billion. You might say, does any of that matter? Well, on the other side of the world, 84 million people are starving. At Bath University, I met biochemist Professor Rod Scott, a scientist who believes that genetically modified crops might provide us with a solution to world hunger. How does the gene get from the plant into the seeds? Because that's what you're interested in,
yes.
The seeds that you want to sow.
It's initially injected into cells which then have lots of daughter cells which go on to make the structures that go in to make a seed. So what I've done is I've made a little mask which I've put on the top in the shape of this cross, and I've just sprinkled through that the seeds from a plant that is resistant to the herbicide.
So well, you can see why farmers would like that. They would like to spend less money presumably on herbicides, no weeding. But I think the public perception is that people like you are playing God. You're tinkering around with natural plants.
Well, of course some people will say that for various reasons. My argument is that what we're doing is an extension of the genetic modification that's been going on for 12,000 years.
But I suppose what worries me is that the genetic material could transfer to something different. So what's to stop the DNA that you have picked transferring to a completely different species?
I think the problem that people are concerned about is whether a gene from a crop plant can get into a wild relative by hybridization. And that is possible, it does happen.
I think Rod did a very good job of demystifying genetic modification. I think basically what he was saying was that it's an extension of a process that we have been doing literally for thousands of years through domesticating crops. He thinks that it's a way to end world hunger, but I'm not so convinced. I think that there are probably other things that we can use as well, such as female education. I just really wouldn't want to live in a world that was full of monocultures and without wild places. But on the other hand, I don't want to see people starving. So my suggestion would be that we in the West started by consuming less, and we could do that quite easily by cutting back on eating meat. Not all the time, not every day, but just one day a week, a meat-free Monday, and that would be a fantastic start.